Hello and welcome to Yorkshire Voice at 4 o'clock with all the latest across the region. I'm MJ Binns. Our top story today. An investigation is underway following the death of a 21-year-old policing student whose family claims was bullied while on work placement. Anugra Abraham, who was known as Anu, went missing on March the 3rd and his family claim he took his life due to what they call institutional racism. West Yorkshire Police say they have referred the incident to the Independent Office for Police Conduct. We can cross over to our reporter Mia Hagger, who is live outside Leeds Trinity University, where Anu was a student. Mia?
Well, the family of Anu have set up a GoFundMe page. On it, they've made several allegations about the time he spent on work placement with West Yorkshire Police as a part of his degree here at Leeds Trinity University. They claim that he experienced severe stress and anxiety due to bullying and institutional racism during his time with the force, and claim that he tragically took his own life after going missing from his family home in Bury. The family are asking for financial support for Anu's funeral costs and also for what they describe as their legal battle and campaigning going forward. West Yorkshire Police have released a statement saying the force was saddened to learn of Anu's death, and their thoughts and sympathies go out to his friends and family. They said they take allegations of bullying and discrimination within the force very seriously and are committed to investigating such reports. The force have referred itself to the Independent Office for Police Conduct. They say they are unable to issue any further comment pending the completion of the investigation. A spokesperson from Leeds Trinity University, where Anu was a student, said, "We are deeply saddened by his tragic death of Anu, who was completing his police constable degree apprenticeship with West Yorkshire Police and the university. Our thoughts are with his family and friends at this extremely difficult time. We take our students' welfare very seriously and offer a dedicated student support service 7 days a week. We will continue to work closely with our partners to support further inquiries into this tragic death."
Thank you, Mia. And now for some news in brief. West Yorkshire Police are appealing for witnesses after a car crashed into a tree in Wakefield. The accident happened on Hallfield Lane near Royston yesterday morning. The male driver of a white Nissan in his 20s suffered life-threatening injuries, and his female passenger, also in her 20s, suffered some serious injuries. Anyone with information is being asked to contact West Yorkshire Police. A body has been found next to a school in the Ollerton area of West Bradford. Police were called to the scene in Wasteland off Rhodes Way near Dixon Alton Academy at 2 o'clock yesterday. Forensic teams and paramedics were also called to the scene soon after. West Yorkshire Police say that so far there are no suspicious circumstances surrounding the death, and a cordon was put in place but has since been removed early this morning. A 13-year-old girl who was reported missing has been found. Amy Taylor from Bramley went missing on Friday but has been found safe and well. And that's the news in brief. Protesters campaigning against oil sprayed at a Leeds city centre bank with orange paint at the weekend. Barclays Bank in Auburn Street was targeted by Just Stop Oil supporters who are demanding an end to fossil fuels lended by banks. James Steek has joined us live to discuss this protest further. So, James, as I mentioned, protesters have sprayed Barclays Bank with orange paint, but what triggered this protest?
Hi, MJ. Lovely to talk to you. So what we're calling for is a really no-brainer demand. Basically, we're demanding that no new licensing or consents for any fossil fuel exploration in the UK. As you're probably well aware, the cost of living crisis and climate crises have both been brought about in large part due to our dependence on fossil fuels. And the IPCC report last Monday says that it's now or never to get off of these things. So that's why we're out in Leeds on Saturday.
So what are Just Stop Oil looking to achieve from these protests?
Well, as I said, we've got a we've got a small and ever shrinking window of opportunity in order to deal with this crisis. So at the current time, our government has essentially been bought by fossil fuel interests. In the last quarter of 2022, the ruling party took £632,000 from fossil fuel interests, and that includes the likes of Barclays. Barclays are the leading fossil fuel financier in Europe. They financed them to the tune of $166 billion since 2015. And essentially, we're seeing mass corruption. And so that's why we're calling on the people of Leeds to join us on a slow march in London from the 24th of April.
What do you think about criticism? What do you think about the criticism Just Stop Oil have faced from the public around these sort of protests?
I think it's 100% understandable, and I think people are right to be outraged. I think we acknowledge that under any normal circumstances, this sort of behaviour would be completely unacceptable. However, we are far from in a normal situation. Europe's currently in its worst drought in 500 years. You've most likely seen shortages in supermarkets recently. Some supermarkets have even started rationing. If it's this bad in 2022, how bad is it going to be in 2050? The fact is that no one's coming to save us. Our politicians, our entire political class has been bought by big business and the fossil fuel lobby, and so it's on all of us to resist that in any way that we can.
So would you say these protests are more important now compared to last year?
They will be getting increasingly more important as time goes on. The IPCC report that came out last Monday is most likely the last one that will be issued before we pass the critical 1.5 degree threshold. We're talking mass displacement of hundreds of millions of people once we go over 1.5 degrees. We're talking whole nations and communities killed or displaced. To allow that is a disservice to all of our predecessors who died for whatever rights that we enjoy, and for anyone that comes out after us. So I'm calling on you, everyone at Yorkshire Voice, and all of your listeners to join us in London from April 24th.
Thank you, James. That's all we've got time for you today. Now, as many of you have seen, violent demonstrations across France with protesters angry at the retirement age being raised to 64. It sparked a debate in this country about our government's plans to increase the retirement age to 68 between the year 2027 and 2029. Following recent reviews, people in Leeds have been sharing their thoughts with us.
I think with the way that people are living longer now, I think people actually want to work longer.
What age do you think you'll retire at?
When I can afford to. That's the big question.
I think the way things are going, I think it probably will. I think it'll probably go beyond 70.
I think anything that happens on the continent always drifts over into our sort of government. You know, I think people always look at how other people are leading their country, and I think it always sort of leans over to here sometimes on politics, definitely. So I do see that probably happening.
And what age do you plan to retire at?
I don't think that's decided by me. I think I have an age I'd like to, but it's dependent on the government and the cost of living and how things, you know, how comfortable you can be, you know. Ideally, you know, 65, 70, but as we know, things change. It depends how much pension I've got to be able to live comfortably and support family as well.
Now, it's a condition that affects more than 700,000 people in the UK, but is often misunderstood. Autism Acceptance Week aims to provide education, promote understanding, and make the world a friendlier place. I'm joined in the studio now with Pete Hughes, Chief Executive Officer at Leeds Autism Service. So, as I mentioned, this week is all about autism acceptance across the world. What does this week aim to achieve for autistic people?
I think really it's to get people to stop and think and try to learn a bit more about what it means to be autistic and what autism actually is. Everyone's heard of autism. I don't think that many people know what it actually means to be autistic, so I think that's the main thing it sets out to achieve.
Yeah. How can education help autism as well as people who don't have it? So people who have autism, how can education help them as well as others?
A huge amount. I think it's just about really making places more accessible, spaces more accessible. If you make somewhere more autism friendly and people have a more non-judgmental attitude towards each other, it benefits all kinds of people, not just autistic people. So I think it's really important to have that education.
What fundraising events are Leeds Autism Service running this week?
We're not doing a lot of fundraising this week. We're doing mainly educational events. So we're going to speak in a couple of schools. We've got a stall at Leeds Trinity. We've got a stall at the White Rose Centre. So that's all education stuff. We've also got an online campaign and a poster campaign. And everything to do with those campaigns is on our website, and we're going to celebrate the end of the week by going to see Leeds Nights with a group of people.
Amazing. So what can people at home do to help support during this week and also outside of this week, because obviously it is a massive thing?
I think this week, plug ourselves a bit here, but we'll be running an online awareness campaign, an acceptance campaign. So if you like our social media pages and share our acceptance images, we'd be very grateful. I think individually what we can do is really listen to autistic people, listen to autistic voices. The recent Christine McGuinness documentary were great, the recent Chris Packing documentary were great. So just listen to what autistic people have to say and educate yourself about what it is.
Yeah. Where can people find places? So obviously you mentioned about social media. What's the main platforms that you like to use?
We use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, just started on YouTube, and LinkedIn are the main ones.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you ever so much for inviting me.
Now in some sport news, and here's an update on the Rugby League scores from over the weekend. Castleford Tigers lost to Warrington Wolves 0-38, and Wakefield Trinity took a loss to Hull KR 6-34. Leeds Rhinos had a close call but beat Catalan Dragons 32-22, while Sheffield Eagles had a big win against Toulouse 32-4. And finally, in a much anticipated match between the rivals, Keighley Cougars and Bradford Bulls took place yesterday. Our sports correspondent, Elizabeth King, spoke to the fans about their predictions pre-match.
I think it'll be a tough game. I'll go 32-28 Cougars.
And how excited are you for the game?
Very excited. It's been a long time for Derby, so should be expecting a really good crowd.
26-10 to
Bulls. And how excited are you for the game?
Yeah, looking forward to it. Should be a good game.
From Bradford 32-20.
And how excited are you for the game?
It's always exciting watching my old teams play against each other, so yeah.
In the end, Keighley Cougars won 34-6. And now onto the weather. It was a frosty start to the day for many of us this morning, but we've had plenty of sunshine. And despite the sunshine, it has felt rather cold. It's felt rather cold throughout the day, with some light winds and a maximum temperature of 8 degrees. Temperatures will be dropping later tonight with a minimum temperature of 1 degree. It's going to be quite cold with clear skies and an overnight frost forming in some areas. A cold wind will gradually thicken in the west, bringing some patchy rain over the dales. So make sure you've got your hot water bottles ready for tonight. Tomorrow should feel milder with a maximum temperature of 8 degrees, with bands of rain continuing eastwards, turning heavy at times. There's a chance of some possible snowfall overnight over the highest hills tomorrow, which will become drier overnight. Thank you for joining us today. We're back tomorrow at 4, so make sure to come back and join us again. If you want to hear more from us in the meanwhile, head over to our social media pages on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. That's all from us for now. Goodbye.